Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Gig Harbor City Council meeting of Monday, February 14th, 2022. The time is 5:31 p.m. And I will turn it over to our city clerk for a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Barber.
Here.
Councilmember Denson.
Here.
Councilmember Henderson.
Streaming live from Playa del Rey, California.
Councilmember Likens.
Here.
Councilmember Rodenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Starset.
Here.
And Councilmember Wook.
Here.
We have all 7 council members present and accounted for.
Okay, wonderful. And I will introduce our guests as we get to each item and welcome staff as well. Would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Oh, and I better put my little screen up so I can see your hands raised here. Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Was there a second? I thought I heard a second. Brenda? Okay. Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes 7-0. All right. So we have a very special presentation this evening. I'd like to welcome our Chief Busey and our new Detective Sergeant, Trey Federici. I hope I said your name right, Trey.
You did. You did.
Okay.
Well, good evening, Mayor. Thank you very much, and council members. Tonight, I'm proud and very honored to recognize the promotion of Detective Trey Federici to Detective Sergeant Trey Federici. So Trey comes to us with 21 years of law enforcement experience. He joined our department in 2016, coming from Colorado to join us. He performed immediately very well as a patrol officer, was very well liked, and earned the respect of all of his peers. And in fact, in his 6 years here, has already been named, voted as Officer of the Year 3 times by his peers. So he's made quite an impact for us. He tested for and was named detective in 2019 and been in that position ever since. And since that time, he has basically revolutionized that position. He's been tireless and fastidious in his cases. He's been very creative in how he puts together his cases and has brought some good ingenuity to that position. He's an excellent writer, and his case reports show that. He's respected by prosecutors and the judges. He's done an outstanding job of developing relationships both inside and outside the department. He's become our first member of the PC FIT team, the Pierce County Force Investigation Team, that gets called out at all hours of the night to investigate all officer-involved shootings within Pierce County. And in fact, I think he spent Saturday night into Sunday on an investigation in Puyallup for about 6 or 7 hours. In 2022, the budget, you've created the detective sergeant position to really help the police department get properly organized. He'll be charged with overseeing not only the investigation section, but the administrative section too, as far as the record specialists up front. He's kind of in a good position to direct traffic with the case flow and some process improvements we have there. So it was really a no-brainer that Trey received this promotion. He's just been shown some good potential. He's got great ideas and just a future leader for sure. So I'm, again, very pleased to recognize Trey for all of his hard work in his promotion to the position of Detective Sergeant. I'll offer up the opportunity for Trey to chime in if you'd like, or not, either way.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Listen, I can't be more humbled, and I thank you guys, this council, members of the previous council that saw the value in this position and moved it forward. I can be a little long-winded, so I'll keep it tight because I know it's Valentine's Day, but I just wanted to thank you guys. Most of all, and I know the chief's a little too humble to even mention this, I need to thank him. His continued leadership and patience and mentorship has been invaluable to me. I value his teachings so much, and I truly believe I wouldn't be where I am today if he wasn't there to mentor and guide me over the last couple of years.
This is about Trey, okay?
I get that, and like I says, he's too humble to do that. But I honestly believe that I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of the people I work with, and I work with the best men and women from the top to the bottom that law enforcement has to offer in the best city with the best department. And I'm humbled, and I hope I'm worthy of it in the end. And I thank you. I thank the department, and most of all, I thank the chief of police. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, congratulations again to Trey, and council, thank you for your support in creating that position.
Congratulations. We are so happy to share this honor with you this evening. So thank you to Chief BC, and thank you so much, Detective Sergeant.
I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. So before I do the mayor's report, I did want to acknowledge our staff that are present and our guests. So we have, it just say here, after I call your name, we have Mike, our GS person.
Here.
Okay, and we have Director Jeff Langhelm.
Here.
And our, sorry, if I'm in total like blonde moment, if you want to call it that. Parks Manager, Matthew Keogh.
Present, thank you.
And our Community Development Director, Katrina Knudsen.
Here.
And our Communications and Tourism Director, Laura Pettit. Finance Director, David Rodenbach.
Here.
HR Director, Camille Borders.
Here.
City Clerk, Josh Stecker.
Here.
And we have our City Attorney, Daniel Kenny.
Here.
And then we also would like to welcome our guests this evening. Did I miss anybody, first of all? Did I miss anybody? Trying to see you all. My screen is smaller at home. I apologize. Like to welcome Josh Weiss and Annika Vaughn from Gordon Thomas Honeywell. Good to see you.
Everybody.
Good to see you both. Thank you. And I see we have Ashley Emery with us as well. Hi there.
Hi.
All right. So my mayor's report is very short. Just wanted to let you all know we have multiple vacancies on our volunteer commissions. So council, if you know of people that are interested, please let them know what it's like to be on a commission, give them some information, let people know that these positions are open. And the second thing is just reminding everyone that our Harborview Stinson project starts on the 28th. So you're going to see some changes to the signs, I think starting tonight or tomorrow, and that will have the information that people will need for when this is starting. And we've already had some meetings with some of our local business owners and have come up with, I think, an alternate plan that's going to help some of them out. And then we will have another meeting in the next week or so with Director Langhelm and any businesses that will be they'll open to any businesses that are have concerns or want to come and hear more about the project, and community members as well. So we'll let you all know when that meeting will be scheduled, but we're looking forward to this project being completed. I think it will bring a lot of beauty to downtown and hopefully solve some of the issues that we've been having with Stinson and Harborview. So that is it for me. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Josh, were there any that were received written comments?
No written comments were received.
Okay. Would anyone in our attending, our guests this evening, welcome to the public that is with us tonight. Does anyone wish to raise their hand and provide a public comment on a non-agenda item? I see one hand.
We have one in our caller, so I'll allow the caller ending in 874 to speak.
And remind me, Josh, is it *9 to unmute?
*6 to unmute. It looks like they're ready.
*6.
Good evening, Mayor Markley. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, good evening. Yes, I can.
Yeah, this is Mr. Wick over here on Hunt Street. Yeah, two issues I wanted to touch base with the council on, and hopefully you can assist me. First is that public records request dated September 25th, 2020. I sent multiple checks for $8,000 to the city of Gig Harbor, and they were returned. And I keep getting informed by Mr. Piasecki that the city considers that public records request, I think, withdrawn or abandoned. I think abandoned is what the term he used. Anyway, I would like those public records. And I cannot resubmit a new public records request to get them because you guys passed Ordinance 1465. Basically means I'll never get them. So that's the concern I have. So I'd like those public records if I could. And the other one, Ms. Markley, Mayor Markley, if you could, I wanted to ask if you could have Director Langhelm and yourself go to the outfall location for the Scansey Avenue drainage and ask Mr. Langhelm if he sees a drainage ditch there. And he'll say no, and you'll ask him, was that reported? Was it documented? Was it required? Was development predicated on the existence of this drainage ditch? And he's going to say yes. And after he does that, I am asking that you issue a stop work order pending the identification of and confirmation of a appropriate drainage for that development. And the request is, it's kind of insisting on it respectfully, because when I listened to the oath of office that you took and that the council members took, when a citizen informs Gig Harbor's leadership that something was reported but doesn't exist and it puts other people in harm's way, you have to act. So I'm just respectfully requesting that the council members remember the oath of office, but allowing development to continue after you took the oath, I think there's an inconsistency there. So I would ask that you do that. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to old business item number 1, Resolution 1231, amending legislative agenda. And I will turn it over first to our city clerk, Josh Decker.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. This is Resolution 1231, which is simply adopting an amendment to Resolution 1218, which is our 2022 legislative agenda. I think council members should be fairly familiar with that document. Over the past month, we've met with representatives from the 26th district, and we've also had conversations with our lobbyists on matters that are going through the state legislature currently. In the course of those conversations, council made a request to staff to come back with an amended legislative agenda that accounts for council's support for any legislation that may come through addressing climate change. So City Administrator Tony Piasecki, who is not able to join us today because he's halfway across the globe, worked with our lobbyists and with the mayor and came up with just a brief statement to put at the end of our list of items that council supports to take that into effect. So this resolution just formally adopts that statement, makes it part of our official legislative agenda, and hopefully it captures the intent of what council wanted to see on there. So at this point, I have Josh Weiss and Annika Vaughn from Gordon Thomas Honeywell here. They can answer any questions you have about the legislative agenda, and I think they can also give you an update on what's been happening at the legislative session in Olympia up to date at this point. So if there's any clarifying questions, you can direct them to me, or Josh and Annika are here and they can help as well.
Great, thank you, Josh. And welcome again, Josh and Annika. Thank you for joining us this evening and being here to answer questions. I'll just let you guys kind of give an update, and then we'll open it up for questions after that, if that sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and staff. Nice to see you all this evening. So tomorrow is a big day for the legislature. It is the day they have to get bills out of their chamber of origin by 5 p.m., otherwise known as the floor cutoff. So another opportunity for lots of bad bills to die, which we're excited to see and keeping our fingers crossed for. And then we have about another week before bills need to get out of opposite chamber policy committee. So things are really going to start moving very quickly. We've got about 24 days left of session. We do have a handful of updates, and we did provide a written report this week as usual. But just to highlight a couple, really the big points, talking first about your priorities. We did meet on the sports complex. We did meet last week with Representative Mike Steele, who is the ranking Republican member on the House Capital Budget Committee. And the reason that's important is because Representative Caldeira and Representative Young, who are both in his caucus, both made requests for funding for our request. And so he is the legislator that would be within sort of the bucket of money that's provided in the capital budget for these types of projects, helping his members determine what the priorities will be and what will get funded. So we made that, described the project, talked a little bit about it with him. He was pretty clear with us that there's only going to be about $100 million in the capital budget. And they have $600 million in requests from legislators. So he was, I think, preparing us for the idea that we may be getting, if anything, we may be getting less than our $2 million request. I think they had $25 million per caucus in request in this particular area. So I'm hopeful that we will be getting something, but it does sound like it's going to be a pretty skinny capital budget. And we will, I should say, see the Senate proposal, at least of the capital budget, we think as early as Wednesday of this week, maybe Thursday, which will be early in the process for us. You know, as expected, we saw the transportation budget new revenue proposal come out last week. We didn't expect to get resources. I think we kind of had our fingers crossed to get resources for the requests that we were making for new road projects. And as expected, they were not in there. And that's not a surprise. The reason they say that is because they're spending about $3 billion of this package is from carbon related dollars and are directed solely towards projects that are non-congestion, non-road improvement. Lots and lots of transit related, pedestrian related projects really focused on that. And then the remainder going to state ferries where there's a major backlog, state culverts where there's a major backlog, and then making sure that they have the ability to fund projects that were identified in the Connecting Washington package, the last package that now have cost overruns because of inflation. So, you know, a little disappointing, but still nothing too exciting. For anybody that's, you know, interested, just up the road, there's a significant amount of money for the Gorst project. And then just this morning, out of the Senate Transportation Committee, there's a bill that moved out that would have originally, Senator Randall's bill would have originally entirely, the attempt was to entirely pay off the debt on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. It's been pared down, and my understanding is that provides a 75-cent reduction on the toll. So that is moving forward as well. So there are some good positive things on transportation, just not the projects that we had identified. Chief Busey can chime in here as well. The use of force law reform bills are moving forward for the most part. My impression is that they are going to be providing some sense of relief, some cleanup from what they did last year, probably not as far as we would like it to go, but those bills are still moving forward. Let me pause there and see, Chief, if you want to add anything on that, and then I'll talk about missing middle.
I think that's very accurate, Josh. Thank you for that and your help on that. We've been working very hard with WASPIC to get some of these legislative changes pushed forward. And I would say with guarded optimism, I think we're going to see things change for the better. Clearly not everything that we needed, but definitely a swing back in the right direction. Thank you.
So the last issue that we've been spending a whole lot of time working on your behalf is House Bill 1782, which is the remaining missing middle version of the governor's missing middle bill. We are actually waiting this evening. The House is still in session. It has been on a list of bills to run out of the House for about 3 days now. It has not done that. There is a lot of debate, I'll tell you, within the House Democratic Caucus. Our colleagues, a number of colleagues that also represent cities, and then Carl Schrader that works for the Association of Washington Cities, we've been working really closely together. We've lined up about 15 amendments that they'll have to go through if they decide to run the bill. We've been working really hard to see if we can get the Republican caucus to lock up as much as possible. I think I mentioned to many of you that Representative Caldeir, when it went through the Appropriations Committee, did a great job advocating against the bill, offering amendments. She'll be doing that again. Representative Young, I've been in contact with him as well. Now that it's on the floor, right, both of them, Representative Young doesn't serve on appropriations. They both now are in position to be working on this. I think there's been a lot of work also that's gone in with the majority caucus. It only passed appropriations with 1 vote. And we know from what we're hearing that it is going to be a real tough question about whether it even comes up for a vote. I do believe if they pull it out of rules and bring it up, that it will have enough votes on the floor. But I think privately behind closed doors, there's a fair number of Democrats that are really suggesting that it should not come forward. So at this point, your guess is as good as mine. We've got until 5 o'clock tomorrow. We've made it look as unattractive as possible with those 15 amendments. And we're really just hoping that at this point it doesn't move forward. But one of my colleagues, they just put out the next run list of the next 25 bills or so that they'll be working on tonight. They actually pulled this bill off of that list. But as one of my colleagues said, they'll probably just surprise us and run it at 2 a.m. this morning. So we'll see. That's what we know about that for right now. I should also add, I have been a little bit remiss lately in providing up-to-date details because it's just been changing so quickly. There's an amendment on that bill. It does exempt cities over 30,000, under 30,000 in population. So Gig Harbor would be out. Now, if it passes the House in that form, that's great, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to stay that way. It also includes language that attempts to address the issue that we've raised about inconsistency with the PSRC's growth targets. I'm not sure that the language is perfect. If it gets adopted, we'll look at it when it gets in the Senate. So right now, I'm not too excited about the details, really just waiting to see if it moves forward at all. And I know you asked or have the policy on climate change. I can answer questions about that as well. And Annika, if I missed anything, please feel free to chime in. Otherwise, happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Josh and Annika, both for all of your hard work. This has been a whirlwind session, and we just really appreciate you advocating for us and helping us know when to testify on things and all of that. And so we just appreciate your help very much. Yes, okay, let's see. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor Markley. Josh and Annika, what legislation do you see coming down the line pretty quickly for climate change, whether it's direct or indirect EV charging or transition from natural gas to electric heating, whatnot? Do you have some idea of what might be coming?
Yeah, I have some idea about what's in play right now. We will have a better sense of your point about EV charging. I think we'll see some of that in the budgets when they come out, probably later this week, early next week in the operating budget. So there's about, I just pulled a quick list today. There's about 4 bills that we're aware of that have to do with climate change. The first is House Bill 1099, and it would incorporate climate change into the Growth Management Act and make it an element of the GMA that you have to plan for. I'm going to go very briefly over these and not go into detail.
Yeah.
The other is Senate Bill 5842, and that is a trailer bill to last year's Climate Commitment Act that passed. That was the cap and trade, but also had a number of policies in there about climate change. This makes some further refinements to those policies, sets up an office at the Department of Ecology to implement the Climate Commitment Act. House Bill 1770 is the energy code, authorizes cities to adopt REACH codes within their jurisdiction. And then the last one is Senate Bill 5722 that has to do with emissions from buildings and has some requirements for, I think it's primarily new buildings to try and decarbonize them. So those are the four that I'm aware of right now that are live. Now that if you adopt this policy, we will make sure all of those are on your tracking list and then do a little bit more thorough scrub. We're over halfway through the session, so there's not huge opportunity to influence these, but we'll pay a lot more attention to it.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Councilmember Wook.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you both so much for answering my questions and my emails and giving me an idea of the process that's involved. I have a couple of questions. So if these amendments in the House Bill 1782, if that gets passed with those amendments and it goes over to the Senate, if the Senate wants to eliminate those amendments or make any further changes, then there any changes that they make have to go back to the House?
Yes, that's correct. So the Senate has, pretty much, they have almost no limitations in what changes they can make. They do have to stay within the title of the bill, but yeah, then it goes back to the House and the House has to either concur or not concur. And then you can get into a fight between usually the last few days of session as bills bouncing back and forth as they're trying to agree on the final language.
Okay, good enough. And then I have a question on the transportation funding. I know that PSRC was also talking about transportation funding. Is that the same dollars?
No, PSRC distributes federal transportation funds. So these would all be state funds.
Okay, great. So that federal doesn't go to get dumped into state and then comes down to us. Okay, great. Again, thank you so much. And I'm happy to see that 1770 passed the House and it's now going to the Senate. So that's a good bill for us here in a sea level rise country. So thank you for your patience and your education on this. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I just would note on that for your first question that remind you that the Senate bill version of 1782 did not pass the Senate. So even if it gets out of the House, we feel like we have a fighting chance to stop it in the Senate.
Great. Thank you again.
I did want to flag that after cutoff, we're going to be sending another updated bill summary list. There are some bills that we support that are in play right now. The body camera grant bill is one that I can think of off the top of my head that is supposed to run tonight, hopefully, but we don't know if it's passed yet. So just look out for that list. I'll be sending it in the same format that I did last time.
Probably
Thank
Wednesday.
you. Yeah, we so appreciate your updates. They are very thorough and very informative. Yes, Councilmember Barber.
Yes, thank you guys very much for the updates. I appreciate them. It's helping me get up to speed on everything that's going on. I would like to move to approve resolution 1231.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wook. Okay, I will open it up for public comment. Josh Sticker, were there any, do I need to?
Comments for this item?
No written comment. Okay. And then is there anybody in the attendees that would like to comment on this agenda item?
Don't see any raised hands for this item.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table to approve resolution 1231 and we have a second. Is there any other council deliberation? Okay, not seeing any hands. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you again, Josh and Annika, for joining us this evening. Happy Valentine's Day to you both.
Thank
We'll
you so much. It's a
You're
pleasure
welcome.
working with you.
We're looking forward to the next update. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so we will move on to new business item number 1, which is the first reading of ordinance 1482, stormwater code revisions. And I will turn this over to Director Jeff Langholm.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I want to first introduce the 2 other folks I have here with me who are going to be supporting me on this, answering questions. First is Ashley Emery. He's with Peninsula Financial Consulting. He has been working with the city on stormwater code. He's also he's jumping into already the stormwater, utility revenue study. And Ashley has worked with the city in the past for decades. Ashley, I don't remember when the first time you worked for the city, but it was before my time here in 2006. So it's been a while. So Ashley knows the city of Gig Harbor well. He's worked with us when we go out for bonds, when we do our utility comp plans. So he has a lot of history with the city's utilities. Also have Mike Simmons with our GIS. He's our GIS coordinator. He has helped us in many ways on this study and the code changes by helping us identify where we have hard surface that we haven't previously identified, and just a lot of the calculations, the data. Lisa Crassus, give a lot of data to Ashley, who runs the numbers. And then also Bree Ellis. She's been working with us a lot on giving us point of view from stormwater manual, stormwater code, and what the ecology is expecting of all of this. So anyway, well, have Ashley and Mike here to help answer any questions as we go through this. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I know that was a long council bill that you had, a lot of connections to links to other meetings. This is a deep subject that we've been talking about and trying to put into motion since spring of 2021. And so hopefully you've had a chance to review all of the information that we provided. There is a lot there. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the council bill, go through a little bit of the ordinance, and then answer questions along the way. So as noted in the council bill, the stormwater utility for the city of Gig Harbor was created in 1984. Of course, a lot has changed since then, including how properties have developed, the awareness of environmental impacts due to development, and the creation of many new stormwater and environmental regulations. Those regulations include the city's NPDES Phase 2 permit, National Pollution Discharge Elimination. Phase 2, that stormwater permit was originally issued to the city in 2007 by the Department of Ecology on behalf of the Environmental Protection Agency. We have since had 2 updated stormwater NPDES permits since then. And that stormwater permit is part of its requirements is the stormwater manual. So that's how the stormwater manual gets tied into this, but there's a lot involved in that permit. Just for your reference, and I think I noted in the council bill, for the city to implement the current NPDES permit and run our routine operation for stormwater operations and maintenance, we spend last year, we spent almost $1 million just to implement that. So you may ask yourself, why are we changing the stormwater code? Is it required? Well, under the current code, any issues that we've come up with, we've heard over and over from people. We've looked at stormwater code, and there are issues that have resulted from irregularities and inequalities between properties. And we felt that it was far past time to identify those. They've been bubbling up for a while, and we think we need to identify it. The basis of the current code as it sits today is to collect stormwater fees based on the amount of hard surface known in the existing code as impervious surface on individual properties. But one of the obvious inequities is created within the existing code under, and I'm just going to read the title, but I'll describe it. It's 1410.050C. This section specifically allows commercial property owners to only pay a stormwater fee that's equivalent to an average single-family residential house. We call that EBU, as in the definitions, that they only pay 1 EBU regardless of how much hard surface they have on their site. And since most new developments since the 90s have been required to have, and I'm sorry, this allowance to only have to pay 1 EBU for commercial sites, no matter how much hard surface they have on their property, is assuming they have a stormwater detention or retention facility. But since the 90s, the city has required all new developments over certain sizes to have stormwater detention and retention facilities. So we're requiring detention facilities, but then we're also providing an incentive, which is the reason it was there in the first place, to put in detention and retention facilities. So the result is, though, that we have many areas that have much hard surface and pay 1 EBU, and areas that have a lot of hard surface and pay multiple EBUs. Also, as we move forward in time, the city stormwater manual, as it sits today, first requires sites to place low impact development standards, and essentially to try and infiltrate their stormwater runoff. So by infiltrating stormwater runoff, those detention systems, retention systems are no longer constructed. So essentially, if we kept that allowance in there, and that reduction to only paying 1 EBU, we would have developers that would be putting in hard surface and putting in impervious surfaces, but then wouldn't be allowed to obtain the credit. So that was an inequity. So we know that every developed property does place proportionate demands on the city's infrastructure. And those properties that receive the EBU discount because they directly discharge to Puget Sound, which is another part of the code that's in that same section, those properties do also have an impact on the city's stormwater utility. But that impact is not being captured by the current rate policy and structure, because those properties that directly discharge to Puget Sound also receive the EBU discount. So the city recognized these inequalities. We started to go through a series of discussions with council and the public starting June 10th. And then we presented some alternatives to council. Council selected an alternative for us to go after. We developed some strategies, presented to the public in September. And then we drafted code language and presented it to the Public Works Committee in October of 2021. Then on November 18th of last year, there was a detailed discussion with City Council at a study session where staff reviewed with council those proposed code changes. And then from that time, we have taken some of the questions that were asked by council. We've taken some of the direction we've received, and we put that into the ordinance that you see before you tonight, ordinance 1482. So I'm going to jump into the actual code revisions, but before I do that, I'm going to pause, see if there's any questions. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go through essentially what you had in your council bill, but just quickly the revisions that were in the code. So in the definitions section, we changed quite a few definitions in there. We clarified that the definition of a developed land is, and that now includes the minimum hard surface necessary to be considered a developed land. That essentially is any property over 600 square feet of hard surface is considered developed. We identified the term hard surface. We redefined what an equivalent billing unit is, because we've realized that properties in the city of Gig Harbor no longer have average square footage of hard surface at 2,200 square feet. They're either much larger than that at 4,400 square feet. So that has an effect on all of these calculations, because all the calculations for commercial sites have been calculated based off of 2,200 square foot of hard surface to calculate EBUs. So we've essentially right there cut the number of EBUs in half. Also in the definitions, we made our definition of the stormwater system consistent with the NPDES permit. Makes sense. Jumping down into the next section, that's 1420.020 rates and policies. We've established two different rate classes, essentially a single family rate class and a rate class for anything else that's not single family. In the single family rate class, we've then subdivided it into three different categories: small, medium, and large. That's something we heard from council, and so we've done that. You'll see that in there. And then also within that same section, we've changed that stormwater fees are now going to be charged to property owners instead of to account holders. So you could have one parcel with three different account holders on it. The three different account holders pay the stormwater fees. And so what we recognize is it's better to, the property owner has full control of their property and how much of their property is developed. They should be charged, and then they can collect if they feel that necessary from the people that are renting or leasing from them. This is essentially the same way the county does it also, Pierce County. And then we also have clarified that all classes will be paying the same monthly rate. That's the way it was before, but it wasn't as clear as it is now, we feel. We've eliminated that discount, that EBU discount for developments with city-approved detention facilities. That's in 1410.050 subsection C. We've gone through that. And then lastly, by RCW, we provided one rate reduction for properties that have commercial rainwater harvesting systems. So that's in there. Any questions on the code changes? Councilmember Henderson.
Hey, thank you, Director Langham. First of all, I want to compliment you guys for having done this. I watched all the background information. It was at the study session as well in November, and it was very well explained. I had just a couple of really quick questions. If I can pull this up here. I saw that you decided to do as far as billing goes, the small, medium, and large, which I was happy to see. There was at one point a question, I believe it was during the study session, that somebody had noted that having those three categories, small, medium, and large, might result in more labor to bill people, and there was going to be a follow-up something or other. Now, I'm not sure if that ever went through. I actually like the small, medium, and large concept. I think it captures things a little more fairly than just a large or small.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. Yeah, we did have that discussion. There was that suggestion. We, especially Lisa Crassus, utility billing, she's been a huge help to all of us here. She and Mike reviewed exactly what that would mean to create three subclasses within the single family class. And we realized that there's a lot that we have to go through anyway through the single family class. So we said it's not that much more effort just to make it what we think is appropriate and fair. So we went ahead and did all that effort.
Okay.
So done already.
If there's any other questions from others, I'll give that time up, but I had a couple just real quick comments. In 1410.050 stormwater monthly service rates, you've got effective January 2020 to 1492. That's going to be updated at the rate study when that gets done.
Yeah, that's the intent, is to adjust it through the rate study that's coming up.
Okay, and do you also intend to update the GFC, the general facilities charge?
Yes, actually, that's going to be considered first. And at the February 17th study session, you'll see that there's a memo already prepared by Ashley Emery, Professional Financial Consulting, about the GFCs. So we're going to look at the GFCs first, kind of get some direction on that, and then we'll jump into the actual utility rates for the next 6 years.
Okay, and my last question, if you don't mind, was there a decision ever made about billing for those property owners who might experience a relatively large increase in their stormwater charges? I know that was discussed also at the study session. That was going to be dealt with further.
Yes,
later.
it was considered, and actually in the ordinance itself on the last page on, I'll give on the page number of the entire council bill. So new business 1, page 7 of 8. Section 4 of the ordinance says, it breaks that down and says there's a subsection A and a subsection B, which
Yeah,
is
I see
not
that.
usual. So that's how we broke it apart. And we said, if you have 10 EBUs or less, you shall be charged 100% of increase. You'll be charged 100%. If you have more than 10 EBUs, 50% the first year, and then starting July 1st, 2022, and then 100% starting July 1st, 2023.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Councilmember Storsett.
Yes, Roger, good questions. The last one of yours was actually one of mine. Is there anything proposed? I know we talked about rainwater collection as being a way to, I guess, counter some of the runoff. Any type of incentives for changing, what property is not, what's the word, for the rainwater to come through, permeable. So I'm just thinking, somebody that has, for example, a large driveway and, that is, say, asphalt or concrete. Is there any incentives there to change what people currently have?
The only incentive would be if, let me give you an example, in the code, it says anything, let me make sure I've got the numbers exactly right, but sorry. I think I have them right, but we had so many numbers. Okay, so under 1410, 020 subsection A3, a large residence is considered 77,000 square feet or more of hard surface. So let's say as a residential property owner, you have 8,000 square feet and you want to reduce your bill from 1.6 down to 1.0 EBUs, which is 4,400. If you have enough hard surface you can take out of your property, then you could remove that hard surface and have it reduced down. But that's right now, the way the code sits, the only way you could get that down to 1 EBU.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Councilmember Wook. Oh, you're muted.
I think we were concerned that this was going to be fair to all ratepayers. So that's what we have achieved with this agenda, with this motion, right?
Yeah,
that's more fair.
Yes, the intent is to make it more fair so that a property owner who has 2,000 square feet of hard surface isn't paying the same as a property owner who has 10,000 square feet.
And the largest ones would be really large box stores or shopping centers. Is that who would see the largest increase? Am I right about that?
Yes. We don't have specific examples tonight. We could pull some up if you really needed some, but the property owners that are going to be affected the most are the large box stores, the Costco's, the Home Depot, Albertsons, Target. Any property that has developed with a detention system and was currently receiving that EBU discount will no longer receive that EBU discount.
And those large stores probably don't receive discounts in any cities at all.
Some cities, they receive certain types of discounts, but by far and large, the discount that we've always offered is the greatest discount. And
right.
They pay more in line with what we're proposing that they'll be paying in stormwater fees elsewhere.
So they're just being paying pretty much the same as the rates as they're paying in other cities with this going forward.
Yes, that's our understanding.
Good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Councilmember Likens.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question. I watched the sessions and there was a citizen who asked about discounts for low income or disabled individuals. And I know that we provide a discount for our water and sewer, but I didn't see it in the stormwater. Could there be consideration for putting that into this as we do this bill or in the updated rate study?
Yeah, that's, you're right there ahead of me, Councilmember
Okay,
Likens.
great.
We're proposing it be included into the updated rate study because we want to look at the current water and sewer utility discounts that we currently have, and then adjust those anyway. And we want to spread those across all 3 utilities.
Okay, great. And then also, I know that we do it for low-income seniors. Could there be consideration for also disabled individuals?
There could be consideration for the disabled. It could be just considered for low-income family or property owner or residential property owners also.
Right. I've seen some cities, I think it's the city of Edmonds does it for all low-income people. And I know it's a small percentage of population, but I think would be a good thing. So.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And you'll see that as we proceed down that path. Those will be options. We'll start talking with council about, get some direction at a study session and come back with an ordinance that identifies those.
That's great. Okay. And then just tagging on to what Councilmember Storr said, his question about the rainwater harvesting. Is it my understanding that commercial buildings do get a discount that's state mandated if they use a rainwater?
Yes, there is a state requirement that we do offer a discount, and that's identified in the RCW that was provided. And so we will honor that as required.
Okay, and then one last question. With businesses, I'm thinking of the small businesses in particular, particularly those that maybe have gotten ARPA funds, who are, our downtown businesses who might, be trying to get through this pandemic. Do you anticipate large increases in their stormwater utility bills, or will we discuss this further on Thursday?
Well, we're actually going to discuss that right after. I'm about halfway through or 3/4 of the way through with my presentation, and that was then Councilmember Markley asked me that same question. So we have an answer to that at tonight's meeting.
Terrific, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed a little further, and I'm going to actually jump right into that next question is, what are the impacts to small businesses look like for the stormwater code changes? So this is where conversations with Mike and Lisa and Bree have provided us with a map. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to go through just a handful of examples of properties throughout the city and what their stormwater bill is going to look like, what it looks like today and what it's going to look like with the code change. I'm not going to give specific numbers, but I'll just give some generalities, and we have some, like I said, highlighted. So here, let me start sharing my screen. Hopefully I share the right one. You'll see the correct image. Okay. Do you see a stormwater map that says small business storm rate examples? Okay. By the way, this is thanks to Mike Simmons and his GIS extraordinary skills. What we're going to show, and I'm going to scroll throughout the city as I do this. You're going to see a pale, partially transparent shapes that are on here. Those are the calculated areas of hard surface on the property. This data, we've had to pay for this data. This data comes to us through a third party. By the way, the code does have allowances where if the property owner doesn't agree with the hard surface data, they can come to the Public Works Director and appeal that decision along with anything else in the code. And we can go out and physically measure the site and then adjust it from there. So I'm going to zoom in on a couple properties here. And if it stops working or you get lost, just tell me, because I've got 2 different screens going on. I can't see everything at once though. So I'm just going to start with this. This is the Lungin building. This was built around 2005, I believe 2006. Just real quick, the current EBU for that building is 5 EBUs. They're going to 5.2 EBUs. So it's a fractional increase. The next one is Anthony's, the Anthony's lots, and there's 5 of them total. There's 3 parking lots and 2 developed lots that are for dining. They're going to see an increase in stormwater. We weren't charging, apparently, we weren't charging any stormwater fees for the parking lots. We were only charging it for the building. So that was a correction that we found. But net overall, between the 3 parking lot parcels and these 2 parcels, they're actually going to have a slight increase in stormwater amounts. They're going up about 1 EBU. So minimal. Okay, now I'm going to look at the Finn Homes market site, the laundry building, the actual market building, and the parking lot. Again, we found the laundry building wasn't being charged stormwater fees, or maybe it was, and it was all lumped into the market building. But they're actually going to receive a total net discount, or reduction, I shouldn't say, not discount, reduction in their stormwater fees. Again, a lot of this comes from the fact that we're calculating it now based off 4,400 square feet of hard surface, not 2,200. So, okay, now if you'll apologize, in fact, I'm going to try and pause this so you don't have to watch me scroll. Come on, computer. Well, maybe that's not going to let me do it. There we go. So I'm going to scroll and just give me a moment here. So I'll just, okay. So Donkey Creek Holdings, the old Penn Light building, for those of you who've been out for a while, that is going to increase, go from 1 EBU to 2 EBUs. They were receiving a discount because they discharged directly to Puget Sound. That discount is now going away. So they're going to be charged strictly by the amount of hard surface area they have on site. So they'll be charged 2 EBUs instead of 1. Okay, I'm going to pan my way across town here. We're looking at the Ross building, what is now Suzanne's Millville Pizza building. They're actually getting a reduction. So that's going to be a reduction in their stormwater fee. Okay, we're going to continue along Harborview, Harbor Landing Mall, which it's actually, believe it or not, split into 2 different parcels, but essentially it's one. We were not charging both parcels. We were only charging one of them. They're going to see a reduction by about 2 EBUs in their stormwater fee, even though we weren't charging, because of the calculated hard surface. Calculation is 4,400 square feet again. Yes, Councilmember Barber.
Okay, I don't understand how, if I thought I understood all this, but I'm beginning now to wonder if I really did. I don't understand how, if they were not paying for everything that they had, they weren't paying for the whole building, the whole property, but they're getting a reduction in their stormwater. How does that happen if we're now going to charge them for more property?
Okay, good question. We'll use this example in particular. So this parcel here was being charged 6 EBUs. This parcel was being charged 0.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Okay.
and so now combined, the 2 properties will be charged 4 EBUs.
Because of the total amount of,
Because of the total amount. They didn't receive a discount before because they didn't have a detention system.
okay. Okay.
So they're actually getting a discount or a reduction. I keep saying discount, a reduction.
Okay. I get it.
Mary, as soon as we change the definition of the average residential EBU from 2,200 to 4,400, we guaranteed every existing commercial bill a 50% reduction.
Right. Right. That's what I just realized. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Ashley. Okay, we're going to continue moving on here. I've got a bunch of these. These 2 facilities are having, let me make sure. Yeah, boom, boom. These 2 facilities, sorry, are having no change. This is having a 0.1 EBU increase. And then here we go, the West Bay facility. They're going to see a net reduction in their bill. This site is going to see a significant net reduction in their bill because they're being charged for 100% of their hard surface. And because it's being cut in half, their bill is actually going to be about cut in half. And then lastly, again, transparency and all things, this is the reality of it. Just one more, we went up to Olympic Drive, this property here was only being charged 1 EBU. They don't have a detention facility. So that was an error whenever the Harvester building was added onto our rolls. It might have been before the 90s, I don't know. But it was added on. We've been just continuously calculating it the same, never changing it because no changes at the site. But now we're going to be, it was 1, and now we're going to be charging it 6.4 EBUs. So those are the examples I have. I'm going to stop before I let go of my screen. I see Councilmember Storsett, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Jeff, this has been very, having the visual piece to go along with the read has been very helpful. So also explaining what happens on the rates. So I think there's definitely that plus side of doubling the size, but then now actually accounting for what people are truly using. I think that's good. One other suggestion, or just thought that I had, because I like to incentivize, good behavior and such. So I like the rain gardens. The rain catch basin for that. But I've also seen applications in residential and commercial for rain gardens that pull out, heavy metals and particulate, matter. Curious if that could be a part of something that, businesses could do, or residents.
Well, it is. It's already required as part of our stormwater manual. So the question is it's required, but would we also incentivize it? Because then everybody who does it would automatically get that incentive because it's required. An example of that, just for those of you who I'm sure drive around town, drive past the corner of Hunt Street and 38. There is a new development going in. That's a residential development. The development itself is in the county, but they are constructing the improvements along the right of way in the city. That's a city roadway. So they have to meet city requirements. That property has bioswales. That's low impact development they constructed right there in the right of way. And so it's already required. I wouldn't recommend that we incentivize something that's already required.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Councilmember Henderson.
Thanks, Jeff. 2 real quick questions. To your knowledge, Jeff, how many businesses are actually using the rainwater harvesting system? This is kind of new for me. I haven't heard of that.
To my knowledge, none in the city of Gig Harbor.
Okay. And the second question was more of a comment. I think for purposes of being real clear, I think, Ashley, you said a statement that by going from 2,200 square feet to 4,400 square feet, we're automatically giving everybody a 50% reduction in their rates. I think that may be true for a lot of places, but I think if you were to go up on Borgen and you see the big box stores, they had horrifically low rates for a long time. They will pay significantly more because of the fact that for some reason, I guess earlier on, they had the detention ponds and they got a break on that.
I was merely a comment on the mathematical reality,
right?
All things else being equal.
And that wasn't accounting for the 1 EBU discount that allows for detention facilities.
Right.
Yep.
You will not believe how messy this is and how lucky you guys please do not underappreciate. The numbers have worked out miraculously. I'm amazed. It's got nothing to do with us. It's just luck. Other than skill with Jeff, obviously. There's a lot of skill there. But the numbers, we're still getting a large adjustment from the business class. So even though we did that 50% reduction, we're still generating several $100,000 more than we would have before. The small, large, and medium on the residential has been tied to standard deviations. So we're only hitting 15% of the customers. This is the vast majority of single families are not going anywhere. And hopefully you will have seen with those examples, there was a pretty good error rate going on.
Oh, yeah.
And we really don't know when the rubber hits the road, how everybody's going to be impacted, because we can't do every calculation for every property. But if we can get out of this with this major upgrade, with this major, start fresh, get through this in another year without having any pitchforks or tar out in the streets, boy, we just can't ask for something better. And like I said, it just seems that the numbers seem to be working out to where no one group is getting the thumb on them. So I'm very pleased.
Councilmember Denton, did you have a question?
Thank you, Jeff. Ashley just answered it, because with all these reductions, which is wonderful for our small businesses, I was wondering how this all totaled out in terms of a net gain or loss. So thank you so much, Ashley. That's fantastic news. And thanks for everybody's hard work on this complicated puzzle. And it looks like it's definitely more equitable for this city. Very encouraging.
We are going to be at the next step after the general facility charges. And by the way, that 4,400, the change from 2,200 to 4,400 also impacts your general facility charge revenue from stormwater. It would have cut that in half, which is about $500,000 a year. So, and not only that is turning out okay. So, but after we get through that, the conversation when we get to seeing the entire utility is going to be, if we do an adjustment, it's most likely going to be a slight decrease as opposed to an increase. So we've got some flexibility there, and it's just luck of the draw. I mean, somebody's living the good life here, guys. So,
Well, I'm going to just jump through a couple more key points I want to talk about. One of them is the financial side. But the next one I want to talk about is the public outreach. So there's a lot that has to happen for us to actually implement it. And Lisa Crassus, Bree, and Mike are up to that challenge. So they're going to be helping us get the word out. We're going to send out mailers based on the impacts of the adoption of this ordinance. Again, this is just first reading, but we're getting ready for that already. Those letters could go out the first week of March, assuming the council authorizes and approves the ordinance, the next reading. We're going to send out mailers for those parcels that increase by 10 EBUs or more. This will be a direct mailer for that. We're going to have news flashes on our website. We're going to get word out on social media. Separate notices for those property owners that have never been captured in the city's billing system already, but should have been. It'll include a notice for those accounts that will now charge the property owners instead of the account holders that are on the property, because they might want to be able to change how if they're all of a sudden receiving a bill, they're going to have to probably divvy that up amongst their tenants. And we'll be clarifying that this is based on usage, not by, it's no longer based on usage as it assumed. It was actually based on constructed improvements. We're also reaching out to the school district. I've had a meeting with the school district, talking with them about their impacts. They've been lucky. There were some significant amount of hard surface areas that we had never captured before. And so they were paying just basically much lower rate than they should have been. But we're talking to them about that. We're talking to TPU about that, because we've never charged TPU as a property owner a stormwater fee, though they have hard surface on their property. A lot of it is because they've leased the property or let other uses go on it, such as the Cushman Trail. And so we will have to take a look at that, and that will probably be charged back to us. So as Ashley noted, though, if this ordinance is adopted at second reading, storm revenues are projected to be above the existing revenues. But we do want to look at that as part of the utility revenue study that's coming up. So because this ordinance, if adopted, will become effective July 1st, we hope to have all those discussions in front of council by then, and we can have another direction about what we're going to do with utility rates, hopefully by implementing new utility rates come January 1st of 2023. And then just one last item on the financial side is that I just want to be clear that staff has no intent to going back and requesting past payments for unbilled or underbilled properties. We could, but we're not recommending that. We're not including that as part of this. That's just something that happened in the past and we're moving forward. So that's the end of my presentation. This is the point where if there's any further questions or direction for changes when to bring it back to second reading, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll just continue with what we have and come back for second reading on the 28th.
Thank you, Jeff, so much. And thank you to Mike and to Ashley as well. This is great news, really great news. And very, very nice to hear, especially when we've had some, we're just still trying to get through the rest of COVID and everything else. So I think this is a very bright spot and really appreciate your hard work and getting all of this organized after so many years. So thank you so much. So I will go ahead and open it up for public comment. Were there any written public comments submitted, Josh?
We have no written comments for this item.
Okay. Does anyone wish from the public wish to comment on this first reading of this ordinance?
I'll remind everyone that you can raise your hand on Zoom by pressing *9. I do not see anyone waiting to comment on this item. Oh, we have one.
I see one.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
My name is Kari Heber. I live in the Gig Harbor North area in the Harbor Hill neighborhood. Some of this has probably been discussed in the past and I wasn't involved or listening or paying attention. I had a quick question. My understanding of the stormwater fees is for the city to maintain stormwater facilities, retention ponds and such. I live in an ROA that when our neighborhood was developed has a retention pond that is owned and maintained by our ROA. And I'm curious to know on a per EBU basis, if I'm also paying an ROA fee, some of which goes to maintain retention ponds, why am I being charged an equivalent fee of a homeowner whose stormwater drain dumps into a city-owned retention facility and drain water when I'm then paying extra to my ROA to maintain the stormwater drainage that we own and manage? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment?
I see no other raised hands.
Okay. All right, so we will bring this back for second reading at our next meeting, unless there's any other comments or questions. Councilmember Rodenberg. You're on mute. There you go.
Yes, I just kind of got the idea from the previous gentleman, Kerry's. He asked a question and he was probably expecting an answer. And I know that public comment is not for an interchange of thoughts. So maybe we could just remind him that it isn't like we didn't hear his question. It's just in public comment, we don't respond to questions. And if he were to contact Public Works separately, he could get an answer. It just won't be tonight.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Rodenberg. Mr. Herbert, if you want to email me or call me with that question, please feel free to do that. My email address is jlanghelm@gigharborwa.gov. It's also on our website. Feel free to email me that tonight and I'll get back to you with an answer on that question.
Great. Thank you for that, Councilmember Rodenberg, and thank you, Director Langhelm. Okay, so let's move on to, so new business item number 2 was removed from the agenda. That was resolution 1232. And we will move on to new business item 3, which is resolution 1233, authorizing the submittal of a conservation futures grant application to Pierce County. And this will be from our Parks Manager, Matthew Keogh.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, good evening. In your packet, you should, I hope you are already familiar, but there is a property opportunity in our close to downtown, very close to the Gig Harbor. And the opportunity is a willing seller who's got property adjacent to areas that have already been designated and determined to be valuable habitat and conservation purposes, cultural and archaeological as well. We've been working with Pierce County on acquiring these parcels in this area. It happens to be just north of Donkey Creek Park. And this very much fits with the initiative that has been underway. This is actually our third application to Conservation Future Funds. Some of you on council would recall previous applications and that the council has the role to authorize staff to go ahead and apply. The county looks for that to make sure that it is the will of the council to acquire such property. I'd be happy to call up a map and talk more about the property. I, of course, have photos of it and can give more assessment. I do want to highlight that it is under purchase sale agreement at this time. It is authorized, the mayor had been authorized by the council to negotiate again with a willing seller for a price far below its market potential. And that is an exciting opportunity for conservation, as said, as part of the North Creek Heritage Area. Often associated with salmon preservation, this parcel is part of the arrival into the harbor from North Harbor View. It's the forested uplands just above Donkey Creek Park. 5.15 acres of undeveloped property. Again, I'm happy to show you some pictures of some unique features on it. Again, uplands just on the other side of Donkey Creek Park.
That would be wonderful, Matthew, if you want to share your screen.
Sure. Let me begin with the parcel itself. It's highlighted in red. I'm hoping people are able to see that. Looking for nods. Thank you, Mayor. What you might notice is that North Creek is highlighted with a blue line that's showing the nearby conservation areas really of the creek coming into Donkey Creek Park and then to the estuary. This map that is shown actually highlights and calls out that the property is already been accepted and approved for a preliminary plat. That's a subdivision of the property. So the owner had gone through getting development rights secured for the property, certainly raising its potential value. It can be sold and developed. A final plat would still be required, but it has some special development rights on it that actually endanger by some folks sense of the habitat and the conservation area here. One, the forest itself. The parcel is largely forested, certainly on the edges of it. But there's even stormwater provisions and some utilities that are in place here that would see that this property would not meet exact best practices of today's stormwater retention and cleaning on site. So you basically have a potential subdivision here of 18 units and a public road to connect onto Harbor View. Those things have its place, but it has been looked upon as a special opportunity to conserve as part of our North Creek conservation area. Other property images I can show, just to give you a little bit more sense of it. Hopefully this is coming up for you all. What's shown here is actually Austin Street, where the city has done improvements and given better access to Donkey Creek Park, including on-street parking that's demarked. I wouldn't say that this is the ideal public access to the property, but the property is to the right in the image where the parking stalls are on the left. There's a distant picture of what the hillside kind of looks like with the Donkey Creek sign there showing that it's just upland of the creek itself. I'll just move on down and show just a bit more of the property. Once you've gone up, maybe the rockery that is there used for drainage down into the Donkey Creek. This is sorry, on the left, you would be going up that walkway and looking into the harbor. There are viewpoints from there. It's kind of exciting to get up on the property. As much as the forest is beautiful, there are clearings. And so you're starting to see that in the second picture on the right. And more of that clearing up to Harbor View. Again, 5 acres of property takes you over to a gate on Harbor View. It's actually located very close to a professional building. And if you needed more vicinity, I can take up a parcel map and show you where the conservation areas are already in relationship to this. But it spans the properties across Harbor View that we are working to secure with Pierce County funding and in collaboration with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. So it is a regional effort and a community effort at heart to secure these 5 acres. We're excited to present it to the community and to have council support if you're so inclined for us to continue to pursue this. We are asking the county for opportunity funds. Opportunity funds are limited, but they are available for eminent needs. And this is one that has come to us with an urgency in that the plat will soon expire. So they need to have transaction occur if this is going to be, as the seller would like, a public property with public access. So let me pause and see if I can answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Great pictures. Thank you. Thank you for providing those to us. Let's see. Who was first? Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Matthew, thanks a lot for this presentation. Can you go back real quick to that aerial view of the lot? Trying to figure out, in your background information, you said it had a designated trail corridor. Can you point that out to me?
Yeah, thank you. I hope the map is still showing at this time. Now it's a little bit larger view of parcels.
No, it's not.
It's not,
Okay,
yeah.
Let me see if I can get it back on. So the designated core or trail corridor is what we call the Harbor View Trail. And Harbor View Trail, as you well know, is already built largely around the harbor. And it has some budget allocations for improvements and so forth. But it is also meant to go up Harbor View further. So the trail is actually along, if you were leaving Donkey Creek Park, and if you were on the park property, like I was earlier today, there is a sidewalk here to nowhere and a crosswalk. And at this very point is where we intend to have a future Harbor View Trail extension, and to allow this area to have public access that is safe and purposeful. One of the ideas is it's a loosely designated trail, Councilman, so it does not necessarily say it needs to be in the right of way. I'm pointing to Harbor View, but the trails often with the public property adjacent make a lot of sense to take advantage of the public property and the views sheds that you can have. So the Harbor View Trail, if we can find ways, and there have been studies in the past about getting up this hillside, it could very well be on the property itself and then link back to Harbor View. All those things take different kinds of coordinations and grade concerns, but it's also an exciting possibility of having loop trails and having a way to function with a trail that's functional, potentially lower to the road for cyclists, but then maybe a second one for those who would be using the uplands and maybe doing more of the hike. There's just different ways of accommodating the Harbor View Trail. And again, it is designated to go alongside of this property. Some people call it sidewalk improvements, but it's a little more enhanced than that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Storsett.
Yes, thank you. So one of the things that often, comes up in our conversations is around, parking and access to downtown Gig Harbor. And of course, I love the idea of this conserving this and not making it into a parking lot. But would that be something that's considered, I guess, along with like the improvements that we might need to make to that space to give more people access?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Largely Conservation Futures is for passive uses, and parking lots, when necessary, can be accommodated, but they have to be quite limited. And there are other programs that are 15% limitation to any kind of development. I haven't heard the county in Pierce County being very strict on that, but the intent is not to develop it and not to have parking on it. So basically, we're looking for trail access, and we're looking for a way for people to enjoy this property without it being a destination by automobile, but more as part of their recreation or their experience coming into the harbor.
Okay. Does that same go for the property that's adjacent to it?
Right. So
Or offer, oh,
Conservation
sorry, second part of
Futures-
the question too. Or what about like the street parking like we have on Austin Street? Is that an opportunity on Harbor View?
Right. Well, you know, I would have to, first of all, the Austin Street parking is an opportunity. And I identified that quickly and saw public access as one of the means of providing, so that's important to provide on this property. Could it happen on Harbor View? I'd have to defer to others on the right-of-way plans and the width. It's a challenging situation to imagine on-street parking where the speeds are a little bit higher, but then again, this area could be transforming into a designated trail corridor, and it could have safety provisions, including a separated shoulder and so forth, so that you could actually feel comfortable on that road. I know that there's possibilities of accommodating public access, and I feel confident that we will do that with our trail improvements and access to the property.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Yes, Councilmember Barber.
I just wanted to say thank you for this, Matt. This whole project and the parcels across the street has just been so exciting. And when we started looking at the ones across the street when I was still on the Parks Commission, it's amazing to me to think that in this time period, we have gone from having about 10 acres of forested parks in the city to, with these purchases, will quadruple the amount of urban forests that we have. And that's something that we've all been talking about. And it's so exciting to me. And I'm really looking forward to preserving these trees for, sounds stupid, but for generations to come. It's really important to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Rodenberg.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, council was asked to approve half highway improvements there on Harbor View, all the way from Donkey Creek to where Burnham ends, and then eventually all the way up to Harbor Hill. Part of that was rejected by some on council for the option of cobbling together some sidewalks coming down Burnham. So I know that residents of Gig Harbor North and in the whole community would really like to see that to be improved, similar to what Matthew is talking about. So as long as we have the right of way, we can still do that, right? Being a conservations doesn't mean we can't improve that. What Matthew is calling the urban trail and what a couple of years ago council called a sidewalk. Is that correct? And possibly with the acquisition of that, we can give a little more thought to making that sidewalks instead of the cobbling of sidewalks on Burnham. Jeff?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking that question, Matt, but no, yes, we could take that section and definitely add it in. In fact, we did request federal funding for the entire phase 1 portion of the project along Burnham Drive down to the intersection of Austin and Harbor View. So if that comes through, we can expand our project and include all of that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. This might actually be more of a question for Jeff. The proposed roundabout at Austin and Harbor View, will that, I'm assuming all that work would be done within our right of way, won't impact the property itself in any way, shape, or form. Like, we won't be taking any trees out on that to expand that.
That's not correct. Actually, that proposed residential plat would have dedicated right-of-way for the future roundabout project at the north, I guess be the northeast corner of that intersection.
Right.
So the very southern tip of their plat would have to dedicate some right of way for the future roundabout.
Assuming the city is successful in purchasing it, would there be any conflicts if it's all of a sudden a conservation easement? Will that change the geometry of what we might want to do there?
Typically not. Usually the county's been understanding of those types of issues for projects such as this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
thanks.
essentially, we're transferring the property into right of way, not developing the property with a roundabout.
Are there any other clarifying questions from council? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up for public comment. Josh, were there any written public comments received?
There are no written comments for this item.
Okay, so I will open it up for our public. If there are anybody in the attendees section that would like to comment, please raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone. Not seeing any. Okay, I will close the public comment. And I saw Councilmember Denson, did you have your hand raised?
Kind of accidentally, but since you called on me, thank you, Mayor. I would like to move to approve Resolution 1233.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have Councilmember Denson moving to approve resolution 1233, seconded by Councilmember Wook. Any other council deliberation? Yes, Councilmember Wook.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that this is another wonderful addition and to this conservation property, and it'd be lovely to have lots of trees and lots of this wonderful area for our public to walk in and to walk by. And so it'd be nice if we got some federal funding so we could get a sidewalk there or a trail, whatever it's called, so that people could easily get to it from Gig Harbor North. It's exciting, and I want to say a special thank you to Councilmember Denson, because she's had a lot to do with it, and thank you for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstain? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Very exciting. Thank you, Matt and Jeff, for your hard work on this. And thank you, yes, echoing Councilmember Wook's comments. Thank you, Councilmember Denson. This was very, very good to have come before us. So thank you so much.
I'm very thankful for Matthew.
Yes, we are very grateful for Matthew. So we have our staff report at this time, which will be, I believe, Finance Director Dave Rodenbach.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Happy to report the fourth quarter report is here. I'm sorry it's a meeting late, but it's got some really good news. I'm not promising anything specific right now because we're still closing the books on 2021. So we're still maybe going to get some larger expenditures maybe coming through. And this is a cash basis report. And the best way to explain that is the January, February revenues for sales taxes are really 2020 revenues. And so we have to get the January, February 2022 revenues, and then we'll know the full picture for 21. But I'm happy to say, to make it real quick, all the estimates in the 2022 budget are pretty solid. Nothing's going to knock us out. And I think we're going to beat those estimates in a good way. So in other words, I think some of our revenues are going to come in higher and the expenditures lower. With that, I'll take any questions on the financial side. And then before I stop talking, we also have another part, and it's a report on all the departmental budget objectives. And that would be the final report for 2022. And if you have any questions on those, I'll try to answer, but some of the other department directors are here. If it's more specific to their department, I'm sure they'll chime right in. So with that, I'm done.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Dave? Yes, Councilmember Wook.
So did I hear that you were going to take questions on the quarterly budget update?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a question. I have two questions. On page 33 of 48, I was wondering if perhaps Director Langham could get us an update on the honoring project and where we stand with that.
Sure. That project is continuing. We are waiting for approval from a proposed foundation plan for the artwork from Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. We have submitted all the necessary documents. They've had some questions. We've provided some responses. And then we hope to hear back from them in mid-March at the latest. And then assuming that they are supportive of our foundation plan, then we can go out to bid and award a contract for the contractor to come in and pour the foundation. And then we'll hoist the artwork into place and be ready to go. We've been coordinating all along with the Puyallup tribe and the artist, so they're aware of this timeline.
And do we have any kind of date on that? If all goes well, if we get that approval?
If all goes well, by the time we get a contractor on board, if that truly happens at the last council meeting in March, then we're going to have the contractor come in April. The concrete will cure, the artwork will be put in place. The artist did say that he had a few minor tweaks that need to be made to the artwork once it's in place. So I'm thinking that it's going to be early May at the soonest.
Oh, that's pretty good. I didn't think it'd be that soon. So thank you. I have another question and I don't know who will answer this one. It's on page 20. And it has to do with the buildable lands report and growth allocation. And I don't see Director Knudsen here, but
He
I don't
had
know-
to log off, yes.
Okay. I don't know if anybody
a
else
week.
can answer that.
I mean, Valentine's Day.
Okay. Page 20, buildable lands report and growth allocation. Does anybody know if we had talked about this, I think in a work session about submitting to 1,000 unit for our growth allocation. Does anyone know if that was done? Okay, guess not.
I believe it was, Councilmember Luke, in a recent conversation I had with Katrina, but there are, with some of the new legislation that may come down, those numbers may be forced to shift, but I think that was what was submitted according to the last report that I received. But we can verify that. If you want to send Director Knudsen an email, I'm sure she can confirm that for you.
Thank you. I'll be happy to send her an email. Yes.
Great.
Those were my questions on that. Thanks so much for taking the time to put this together. It's important.
Okay, any other questions for Dave? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you so much, Director Rodenbach. That is wonderful news. Again, we like revenues higher and expenses lower. So awesome news. Awesome news. Okay, so we are now at council reports and comments. Yes, okay, let's see. Councilmember Likens.
Thank you. I just had two quick things. First of all, I just wanted to thank Matthew for his great presentation as Parks Director. And I attended the Parks Commission meeting earlier this month as the Parks Commission liaison. And we are, now that we are lucky to have a Parks Director Co here, we're further defining the role, and I think it's going to be really great. I just want to really reach out though and thank the commission members. I can't thank them enough. These are talented people who are volunteering their time, and I know you spoke to some of the openings earlier, and I just want to thank them because these volunteers really do amazing things for us. So thanks, Matthew, and thanks to the commission. And then I just want, on a personal note, as a nurse practitioner and our local healthcare person, the Washington State free COVID test that they ran out of is active again, and they are available for people in Gig Harbor. So if you're interested, the website is, I have it here, sayyescovidhometest.org. You enter your zip code and you'll get mailed free COVID tests. And hopefully everybody can stay safe and well. And our local pharmacies also have N95 masks free. I was offered them recently. I didn't need them. I have more than I'll ever want. But feel free to go to your local pharmacy and they have them there for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Wook.
Yes, thanks. I received another email this week extolling the virtues of our Public Works Department and their quick return and their quick getting of pothole filling. And so that was reported and it was filled in a very timely manner. You know, it's those folks who drive those red trucks and those white trucks all around town that are the face of the city to our citizens. And as I acknowledged Public Works to this citizen, I also saluted to this citizen the unseen works of an amazing team behind all these red trucks and white trucks that are there. So that, and they, the unseen people that allow our Public Works folks to do their job with great professionalism and care. So to all of our team members who don't get seen a lot and don't actually get those thanks belong to you, because we are a great team and we are as good as our weakest link, and we are pretty good. So thank you, Jeff, and thanks to all the team in Public Works, and to everybody else who's listening and has to do with our other team members. Thanks to all the team members.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodenberg.
Yes, I am the city's liaison to the Gig Harbor Chamber of Commerce Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. We meet every Tuesday that the legislature is in session. And I tell you, we get these reports from Annika every Sunday night, and she makes me look like a hero. I distribute those to the members of the committee, and granted, things are changing really rapidly from day to day in this session, but I'm able to give them up to the date information on not only, you know, the city's initiatives, but she puts in other bills that the Chamber of Commerce is interested in. So they have aligned themselves with our legislative priorities, and we should do the same with them. And they're still looking at them. But I just want to thank Annika once again. So we've met twice since the last council meeting, and it's a good group of intelligent, dedicated people that the chambers put together on their intergovernmental affairs committee. So I'm glad to serve in that way. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Storsett.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to let everybody know that we had the LTAC advisory committee meeting. So I am the new chair for that. And Laura was amazing because I called her and I'm like, hey, I haven't done this before. What do I do? And I was able to get through it just fine, followed order. And it was a great opportunity to learn more about what this group does, and meet all the different members and the different really skills that they have and just their commitment to the city. Also, as we were able to introduce Janica Taylor, who I've seen a lot of emails saying welcome and all that. So I have to say, from my perspective, for this this first meeting, it was great. It was a great introduction. We covered a lot of stuff, back in 2021, but really looking forward to 2022. A lot of great things coming to the city. Let's get people outside. Looking forward to warmer weather. So I don't know how much more I'm supposed to give on what we spoke about, but I think the group's pretty energized. Laura, is there anything you'd like to add?
At the tail end of booking for Summer Sound, so we're looking forward to an amazing season, and putting out our visitors guide and really getting great numbers for 2021, and we're already in January 2022 pacing well, so things are looking up tourism wise.
Great. All right, thank
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Any other council comments or reports? Okay. So announcement of upcoming meetings, you'll notice that we have included an agenda planning schedule. And Josh, I may have you elaborate a little bit more on this one, but really instead of listing out just kind of a few upcoming meetings, we wanted to give the public more time in advance to see kind of what's coming up. Everything on here is subject to change, you know, as agenda items come and go, but at least it gives them a general idea of what to expect, what's coming, and the time frame. So Josh, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on this particular document that's new to our packet?
Sure, yeah. So this agenda planning schedule is essentially what staff uses to go over weekly to kind of remind ourselves what's coming up and plan ahead for the meetings that are coming. It's an improvement on what we've included in our agenda before because it includes all of the city's advisory board meetings and committee meetings, and not just the ones that are specifically for council. It also lists out some of the key agenda items that are coming forward, so the public will be able to see and kind of anticipate what's going to be talked about, and hopefully it will not be such a surprise to people when agendas come out with items on there. So there'll be a little more advanced warning on what's coming up. So hopefully this will be a tool that people can use.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, if there's nothing further, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Enjoy your evening.
Bye.